Well, Matt Gaetz, the 42-year-old Republican congressman who overthrew the Speaker of the House today, had not been born yet when Republican Ronald Reagan began running against government. Ronald Reagan was the first Republican president to be rhetorically, and only rhetorically, anti-government. The last Republican president elected before Reagan, Richard Nixon, was a very conservative Republican, but he believed in government's capacity to solve problems. Nixon willingly signed the legislation creating the Environmental Protection Agency. Richard Nixon pushed a health care bill in Congress that was structurally similar to the bill President Clinton would later try to enact and President Obama would finally enact. The Republican president before Richard Nixon knew government was a force for good in this world when he served as the European commander of the United States forces in World War II. When General Dwight Eisenhower became President Eisenhower, he supported all of the relatively new social service programs, including Social Security, that were advanced by Democratic President Franklin Delano Roosevelt and legislated by Democratic Congresses. President Eisenhower created the interstate highway system, the single biggest federal infrastructure program the country had ever seen. So Ronald Reagan's anti-government rhetoric was actually out of sync with his Republican predecessors in the presidency. But President Reagan never followed through on his rhetoric because he never meant it. He campaigned on cuts to government spending that he then never enacted. He campaigned against taxes, even though in his service as governor of California and president of the United States, he raised taxes as well as cut taxes. Ronald Reagan told his lies about government back in the day when no one in Washington thought they were lies. They called that stuff spin. But the young Republicans listening to Reagan in those days were too young to know that Reagan didn't mean what he was saying. And now many of those Republicans are in the House of Representatives, and even younger Republicans who never heard Ronald Reagan speak are among the most energetic traffickers in rhetoric that expresses uncontrollable hatred of government, the American government, including parts of the government that were Ronald Reagan's favorites, like the FBI. Republicans, and only Republicans in Congress, want to abolish the FBI. They say they want to destroy everything in government. They say the only reason to preserve the Justice Department in any form is to use it to prosecute Republicans' political opponents and no one else. And when they say that, they are echoing the leading Republican presidential candidate who is openly campaigning for the presidency simply so he can use the presidency for his own personal purposes. That is the kind of madness Kevin McCarthy was trying to preside over in the House of Representatives until today, when just one member of the Republican Party filed a motion for a vote on removing Kevin McCarthy from the speakership. The motion is called a motion to vacate the chair. 210 Republicans voted to keep Kevin McCarthy in his job. 8 Republicans voted to remove him. And in Republican world, 8 Republicans beats 210, which is, in its way, poetic justice for a party that believes in minority control of government. And so, for the first time in history, a speaker was removed by a motion to vacate. And then Kevin McCarthy said this.
Unfortunately, 4% of our conference can join all the Democrats and dictate who can be the Republican speaker in this House. I don't think that rule is good for the institution, but apparently I'm the only one. I believe I can continue to fight, maybe in a different manner. I will not run for speaker again. I'll have the conference pick somebody else.
The House of Representatives is now closed for business for a week. Republicans are expected to try to elect a speaker on Wednesday of next week. Here is a sample of the last words America heard from Republicans in Congress before they shut down the House of Representatives for at least a week.
There's a second group, small group. Honestly, they're willing to plunge this body into chaos and this country into uncertainty for reasons that only they really understand.
This Republican majority has exceeded all expectations.
It is astonishing to hear any colleague give Speaker McCarthy credit.
Voting yes is at the least a disruptive overreaction. In reality, it's selfish, bad for conservative policies.
The incentive structure in this town is completely broken. We no longer value loyalty, integrity, competence, or collaboration.
Oh, look at that. Oh, look, give me money. I filed the motion to vacate. Using official actions to raise money. It's disgusting.